That's better.
Okay. Om Gana Dasa Gananjana Shalakaya Unmatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Hello Gita, we can see you now. Hare Krishna. Welcome. Can you hear us? We can see you now.
It's very staticky. You can.
Yeah,
I can't see any.
Oh, okay. Oh, you've just disappeared.
Yeah, okay, that's okay. I'll turn that back on again.
I can still hear you. There's some unusual noise, crackling noise in the background.
Maybe I should just forget.
Yeah, there's some extra noise coming.
Maybe Geeta, you could just try logging out, logging in again.
Not very well.
And when you come back, you can still
join.
It
has to do with.
Okay. Yes.
And one thing, a message just popped up on our screen saying that we had to let you know that you were all being recorded. So I hope you don't mind, because like I said previously, we have a YouTube channel and we're going to be putting all these recordings on there. So I'm going to share that channel link with you soon. So anytime you go back and refer to any of these discussions, you can do that. But it's on a public forum, so it's for YouTube. So I hope you don't mind.
There is an extra disturbance coming, something. That
there is. I can hear it too. Jayanti, I couldn't quite hear all your message, what you were saying. It was a bit just.
Okay, how about we start this call again? Do you think I should start this call again?
Check that all your mics are plugged in properly or not half plugged in. Maybe some mic is playing up. Check that it's all in properly, your mics and everything. There's no loose wires or. It's clear now.
Yeah, it's better now.
No noise now.
Yeah.
Oh, it started again. Started again. Yeah, a little bit. Better though. Better than before.
Yes, it is. It's okay now.
It's better than before anyway.
Yes.
Okay, can everyone still hear and everything?
Yes.
Okay, let's go.
No, sorry.
Okay, Jayanti wants to repeat her announcement.
Yeah. We got a pop-up message here on our screen saying that we had to let everybody know that they were being recorded. Because this conversation is being recorded, we're just letting you know. And also these conversations or discussions are going to be available on YouTube in case you want to refer to it at a later stage. But because it's a public forum, others can even access these discussions. So I'm just letting you know, is somebody going to be worried that, you know, you're on this video and these discussions are happening?
Not at all.
Okay. No problem.
Okay,
all right.
Let's go for it. So we've said the Sanskrit for that prayer to the spiritual master, so now we read the English. Gulshan.
Yeah. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisance unto him.
Okay, that's great. Gita, do you have a Bhagavad Gita with you?
She is Gita.
Yeah, she is Gita. But in the book form? Do you have a Bhagavad Gita with you, Gita?
She's mute, the mic.
But she's muted her mic.
Oh, your mic is muted, Gita.
But she can listen.
Could you unmute your mic?
I think we lost her.
John? Okay. I'm not sure what happened there with Gita. Let's hope she comes back. But we'll continue. So where we're up to this week is chapter 4. What's the title of chapter 4? Quick test.
Transcendental knowledge.
Yes, transcendental knowledge, very good. You can have an extra one of Sarah's cardamom cookies. You getting that one?
Oh,
And text number 30. So I go to text 30. Before we can read the Sanskrit together, the English transliteration of the Sanskrit. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Save pyeke yagna vedo yagna kshaptika kamasaha yagna shistamrita bujo yanti brahma sanatanam. And we'll read it again. Save pyeke yagna vedo yagna kshaptika kamasaha yagna shistamrita bujo yanti brahma sanatanam. Okay. Bob, would you like to read the English, please?
okay. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed in sinful reaction, and having tasted the nectar of the result of sacrifices, they advance towards the supreme eternal atmosphere.
So we have been talking for quite some time about different kinds of sacrifices, isn't it? So
Yep.
many different kinds of sacrifices. So now we've come to the end of the variety of sacrifices. So now it's telling us what's the benefits of doing the sacrifices. Whichever the sacrifice, there will be benefits there. So in the word-for-word translation, Prabhupada gives some more detail. The second word is api, and he says, although apparently different. So it seems like they're all very different, isn't it? One person is sacrificing their possessions, which is different, apparently different, than one person who's doing austerities. That's very different. Which is apparently different than someone that's doing yoga exercises or pranayama breathing, which is apparently different than someone chanting Hare Krishna, or apparently different than someone lighting a fire and throwing things into a fire. So they're apparently all very different. Why does it say apparently different? It seems like they're different.
Well, they're different
You'd say,
activities.
if they were different, you'd say they're different sacrifices. But he's saying apparently different means it looks, superficially, it looks like they're different. But they're not actually different. Well, what's not actually different? What's not different about all these different kinds of apparently different sacrifices?
Well, the intention behind all of them.
You can, all those different people could have the same intention. They could also have different intentions.
True.
As well. But they could potentially, if they all had the same intention. And what is the intention mentioned here in this verse? What's the goal? What's the purpose behind all these apparently different sacrifices? Is there one purpose? It's not saying there's many different purposes here, is it? There's all these apparently different sacrifices, but with one purpose.
Well, I would think you're aiming at Krishna, the results to Krishna.
What's it saying? What's the final part of that sentence?
To cleanse
the
Supreme eternal atmosphere.
Yeah. It's apparently different, but they all have the same goal. They all want to go to the supreme eternal atmosphere. Whether they're doing the yoga or doing the austerities or giving away the possessions or chanting Hare Krishna, then it's not, it's just superficial difference. But the substance of the sacrifice, the goal of the sacrifice is one goal. They all want to get out of this miserable material world, which is temporary and full of suffering. And they want to go to the eternal spiritual atmosphere. And to do that, to get to that eternal spiritual atmosphere, what do you have to become free from? Which is also mentioned in this verse.
The material world.
Birth and death.
Hey Brett, your mic is on mute. Brett's one just popped up.
I know, I'm trying to be...
Oh, now we can hear you.
I'm
Oh,
trying to be
quiet,
quiet
okay.
at the moment. I'm
Good
making
boy,
some-
good boy.
I'm listening, but I'm making some noise, so I didn't want to interfere with you guys. So I am listening.
That's actually a
Doing your
spiritual
washing.
divine quality is silence, to be silent. So Brett is practicing that to be very silent. So that's very good. Give him a cardamom cookie too. Okay. Gita, are you with us again?
I'm with you again.
Oh, fantastic. That's
Yes.
great. That's great.
And there's no static on this end.
Yes,
Wow.
perfect. Perfect. All
That's
clear.
good.
So we're reading from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 30. Do you have a Bhagavad Gita there with you?
I don't, not,
It's okay. You can just hear. You
yeah,
can just hear, and if you have any questions, you can ask questions. That's no problem.
thank you.
Actually, before 5,000 years ago, there was no books.
All right,
So don't feel bad.
okay,
People would just hear. People would just hear, and then if they had a question or something like that, some realization, they would tell that, they would say that. So it was just hearing going on and talking going on. Someone would be talking and someone would be hearing,
Yeah.
and vice versa. So even if you don't have the book, it's not the end of the world. So that's all good. So what we're talking about is that we've been reading about different kinds of sacrifices. They're apparently very different. Giving possessions away in charity, doing austerities, doing yoga, all kinds of different sacrifices. But in one sense, they're not different externally. The form of it, see, don't get hung up on the form. You have to see what's the essence, what's the substance. In Sanskrit, the essence is... What's the Sanskrit word for essence? Sarah should know, because that's her name. The Sanskrit word for essence is Saram. Saram. So you've got to look at, don't get hung up on the external superficial things. Try to always, in your life, always try to get to the essence. What's the essence of what I'm doing? Don't just get hung up on the external activities you're doing with your body, but always have in mind what is the essence of this, what I'm doing? What is the purpose? What's the goal? And although there's different kind of sacrifices, but the purpose can be the same if the practitioners of the sacrifices have full knowledge. Of course, many people don't have full knowledge, and when they perform a sacrifice with just a small amount of knowledge, they might have a different purpose. So we're going to talk about that too, about people that don't have that purpose, or as it's mentioned here, to advance towards the supreme eternal atmosphere. But now we're hearing that knowledge, right? We're getting full knowledge now from? Who are we getting full knowledge from now?
Is it from Krishna or the Bhagavad Gita?
This is from Krishna. This is from Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna speaking Bhagavad Gita. So we're getting full knowledge right from the horse's mouth, right from the source of everything, from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Blessed Lord. Krishna is speaking. So he's giving us full knowledge. What the ultimate purpose of all of our activities are, all of our sacrifices are, is to advance toward the supreme eternal atmosphere. So when you have that knowledge, then whatever you do, whatever activities or sacrifices you do, then you'll have that in your mind. I'm doing it to advance towards the supreme eternal spiritual atmosphere. Okay. And to reach that supreme eternal atmosphere, then what do we have to be free from, as mentioned in this verse?
The material existence.
On the way to, before you can go to that eternal spiritual atmosphere, what do you need to get rid of? Yeah, you need, as my father-in-law said, sense gratification. Or which is also when you do any activity for your own, what is sense gratification? When you do an activity for the pleasure of your own senses. When you do an activity for the pleasure of your own senses, that is what we call sense gratification. Which is, you could put the word personal in front of it. For our personal sense gratification. But what's the problem with that? When you act for sense gratification, what result does that give you? And it's mentioned in this verse. Mentioned in the translation. You don't even have to go as far as the purport. It's mentioned in the translation.
Where you become cleansed?
Yeah, cleansed the what? What? Cleansed the what?
Sinful reaction.
Yes. So when you act for your personal sense gratification, for your own happiness, then the result of that is sinful reactions. And what's the result of sinful reactions? We've talked about this before. How does sinful reactions entangle us in the material world? What's the problem with getting your reactions?
Well,
that's what karma means, right? Talk about karma.
In ignorance.
What's that?
It keeps us in ignorance.
Yes.
No, that's not the answer.
That's part of it. Actually, acting for sense gratification is based on ignorance, because that means you're thinking you're the body. You're thinking you're the body. You're thinking your goal, your purpose is to please the body. To please the body is what? Is made up of senses. So you're trying to please your senses means please your body. Means you're thinking you're the body. So, but thinking you're the body, is that enlightened?
No.
That's ignorance, because actually the first thing that the spiritual master tells us, the very first day I joined the Hare Krishna movement, what's the very first thing they told me when I joined the Hare Krishna movement?
You are not the body, you are the soul.
Yeah, you're not the body, you're the soul. So therefore, our goal of trying to satisfy the body, enjoy the body, is completely based on ignorance. And you can never be happy by trying to gratify the body, because we're not the body. That's why no matter how much you eat, no matter how much you sleep, how much sex you have, how much money you make, how big a house you have, how flash a car you have, the latest mobile, everything, it doesn't make you one iota bit more happy. In fact, you become more distressed because you're getting sinful reactions. Because the sinful reactions start coming. So that's the thing, that when you, like Krishna says, we can look at that if we want. And earlier in the 3rd chapter, Krishna says, if you don't offer food and sacrifice, if you don't offer your food to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if you don't offer it for His pleasure, every mouthful you eat, you're eating sinful reactions. My father-in-law confirmed that. Every mouthful you eat, if you don't offer it, it's sinful reaction. So, because why is that? Why is it sinful to eat food without offering it? Jayanti said because you're stealing from God. Means, what does that mean? That where did everything come from?
From Him.
It came from God.
Yeah.
He created everything. So it's His property. So if you take someone's property, what do we call that? Without their permission, without asking them, or
stealing.
Yeah, stealing. And is that a very good thing to do?
No,
So that's sinful, right? I was just reading. I just saw one message one post came up on Facebook that every 21 seconds in New Zealand a car is stolen.
Every 21 seconds?
Every 21 seconds.
Wow,
the car is stolen somewhere in New Zealand. So that's sinful, right? You can't take someone else's property. That's sinful. But what about all of us taking God's property? Is that okay to do? No, that's even worse. You know, that we're taking God's property. And obviously that's going to be a reaction. Just like if I steal someone else's car, there's going to be a reaction for that. Probably eventually the police will catch me, and then I'll get a fine or thrown in jail or have some community service I have to do or something like that. There'll be some punishment there, right? It's sinful. Or you could say bad karma. If you don't want to use the word sinful, unfortunately the word sinful has a lot of bad connotations coming on it mainly from Christian background, that they use that word a lot, and the context of it is not a very good context. They say that you're going to suffer in hell forever and all this kind of stuff. So we don't agree with that, and so if you're not happy with the word sinful, you could use the word bad karma. Like every action has an equal opposite reaction, right? What goes around comes around. As you sow, so shall you reap. So if you'd rather use those words, you can use those words. But it's a universal principle. Every action has a reaction. What goes around comes around. As you sow, so shall you reap. So, or whether you just say it's sinful, it is a sinful reaction. So getting back to food, okay, why is it sinful to just enjoy food without offering it? Because it's God's property, right? But also, everything you're eating is a living thing. That means that you're eating the body of some living entity. It means there was a soul there, whether it was an animal or a plant. There's a soul there. There's a soul within the lettuce, within the carrot, within all these living things. Within the wheat, within the rice, within the oats, there's a soul there. And then you are gobbling that, and you have destroyed the body that soul was inhabiting. You haven't killed the soul, because as you also know from Bhagavad Gita in the 2nd chapter, the soul cannot be cut to pieces by any weapon, cannot be burnt by fire, cannot be drowned in water, cannot be dried up in the wind. So you haven't killed the soul. The soul's eternal. But what you have done, you've taken its body away that it was inhabiting. So that soul has to find another body. So you've slowed down its reincarnation. By taking its body away, you've slowed down its evolution and reincarnating from one body to the next. And that soul is heading towards getting a human body. And from the human body, that's when you really hit the jackpot, where the soul can, like it's talking about here, can advance towards a supreme eternal atmosphere. So in this one life, if we're clued up. So all the other souls are also trying to advance slowly, one species to the next. And if we just gobble it up, then you've slowed it down. So that's sinful. So what's sinful is you've taken away the body it was inhabiting. It's like if I'm residing in a house, and you come along and toss me out of the house. You toss me out of the house, and you burn the house down, or you take over the house. Then that puts me in a difficult situation. That's sinful. So it's like that. But however, if you offer that food in sacrifice, then that you've still taken away the body of that soul, but that soul gets benefit because it's been offered to the Supreme. Because it's been offered in sacrifice to the Supreme, then that soul makes rapid advancement. So instead of that soul in the cauliflower evolving next life into the body of a broccoli or whatever's next, I don't know what comes after a cauliflower body, but say it was a broccoli body, instead of going from cauliflower to broccoli, it'll go from cauliflower maybe to human, which is, you've done a great service. You've done a great service. It'll get great credit, that soul, that the body was offered at sacrifice. But can you apply that same logic to meat?
Okay.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Why can't we offer the meat? We offer the KFC and the Maccas to the Lord, and like that, and then free that from sin. Why can't you do that? Offer that in sacrifice. Can't you sacrifice the meat? Of course, Muslims try to do that, right? But does it actually work? It doesn't work because you're offering it to God, but God's a vegetarian. God's a vegetarian, so he doesn't eat meat. So it won't be accepted. And if it's not accepted by him, then it means it's not freed from sinful reactions. You've still got the sinful reactions. Because he hasn't accepted it. And there's no point offering something to someone if the person doesn't accept it. Like, you know, I went to someone's house the other night, and they are following a particular, I think, what was it called? Keto diet. So at the moment, they're not eating any carbs. They're not eating any carbohydrates. So if I went to their house and took them a plate of rice or chapatis or something, that would be completely a waste of time, because they wouldn't eat it. They wouldn't eat it.
Actually,
So,
Prabhu,
yeah.
it actually goes a bit further than that, I reckon, because if you know 100% that somebody doesn't like something,
yeah,
and then you go out of your way to deliberately offer that thing to that person they don't like, then that's very offensive.
That's offensive. But the thing is, people that are offering meat to the Lord, they usually don't have that knowledge that he's vegetarian, because of course most people don't know who God is. They know, some people know there is a God, but they don't have any idea what God is. A lot of people's understanding God is just light, God is energy, or they might think God is an old man with a beard if you're a Christian. But even if they know that I mean, he isn't even an old man with a beard. We know he's eternally young, Navayogana, young. But so they have very less knowledge, and sometimes completely misguided and wrong understanding of what God is. So I don't think many people would have knowledge that he's a vegetarian and still offer him meat. But possibly, I mean, yeah, I mean, it could be done. But in most cases, I'm sure that the person offering is ignorant of who God is and what he likes and doesn't like. And the main reason why, I mean, I've had many conversations with Christians, and I've said to them, you know, I mean, it says in the Bible, you know, the commandment, thou shalt not kill. So why don't you follow that? And we argue back and forth, and the Christian has this argument and I have my argument, and everything's like that. And pretty much with logic and reasoning and everything, you know, I defeat them and their arguments, and using their own scripture as evidence, as reference. But still they don't accept all my arguments and everything. And at the end of the conversation, what does it usually finish with? I like my meat. 4 words. Normally what they always tell me, and I don't even bother these days because I know what it's always going to end up with, they're attached to their own sense gratification. They don't actually want to please God. They just want to please themselves. So this is the problem, that the living entity in the material world is so attached to sense gratification. You know, which comes in many forms, whether it's through the tongue, I like my meat, or I like my cigarette, or I like my beer, or whatever, or the genitals, or, you know, seeing something, hearing something, you know, all the senses attached. Sense objects. So this is a problem there. But if we really want to progress towards the supreme eternal goal, then we have to get free from the sense gratification, which causes sinful reactions, which part of the sinful reaction means you're going to suffer in this life. And of course, none of us want to suffer, but that's the result of sinful reactions, is suffering. And also in the next life, what's going to happen is you're going to get a next life. See the reaction to someone's sinful activities. So if you get sinful activities, then the reaction, part of the reaction is you get another body. You're going to get another body. It's like getting back to the animal. I kill the animal And when I die, in due course, when I die, you know, what goes around comes around, right? That's what karma, part of what karma is, what goes around comes around. So what's going to come around? Now I killed the cow. So in the next life, the cow will kill me. So how is a cow going to kill me? That I will take birth as a cow. And the cow will take birth as a human. Now the cow has a human body. I have a cow body. Now it will kill me. That's karma. That's sinful reaction. And that's what entangles us in the material world. You're not going to, as it's saying here, advance towards the supreme eternal atmosphere if you're engaged in sense gratification, which brings about sinful reactions, which causes you to take another material body. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's a whole chain. You know, don't just see the one activity. You've got to see all the reactions that come with it. It seems very simple, isn't it? I just go and buy some food and eat it, and you don't think there's any reactions. That's what I thought when I was young. You can just do whatever you like, and you're not responsible. There's no one holding you responsible. You're not accountable for what you do. There's no person in charge of the universe. There's no one in control. Everything just happens by chance, and everything revolves around me, and I'm free to do whatever I like. But there's a lot of fallacies in that philosophy. The first one is, I'm sorry, mate, but actually there is someone in control of the universe. You know, and you've got to toe the line. And if you don't, you're going to get a kick up the backside. You know, so there's a lot of, we've added up wrong. You know, how did we start off? 1 + 1 equals 3. 3 times 2 equals 9. You know, so our calculations are getting, because we made a mistake in the beginning, we're getting more and more off track. The first mistake is we thought we're the body. So that's your 1 + 1 is 3. And you thought there's no God in control. That's another miscalculation. So it's like one after, because of ignorance, we're making so many mistakes. We think we can do anything and we're not held accountable. Although we all know if you break the law of human society, you will be held accountable. Like I said, if you steal a car and you're caught, you will be held accountable. But we think that even, okay, there's man-made law, but there's no universal law. But that's stupid. That's not even logical. We've got so many laws, even regulating a human society. You mean the universe, which is far more complicated, that has no laws regulating it? That's just completely ridiculous. I mean, have you ever heard of the law of gravity? Anyone heard of the law of gravity?
Sure have.
Yes.
What does that indicate? As soon as you say the law of gravity, what does that indicate?
That there's a law.
What's that?
There's a natural law.
Yeah, okay, but take it back further. Where does a law come from? Does a law come out of thin air? Who makes a law?
Krishna.
A person makes laws, right? We just said that, right?
Yeah.
Humans make laws. Right, you know, you can't, you know, you can't cross through a red light. That's a law. You can't exceed the speed limit. That's a law. You can't go and punch someone in the face. You know, that's a law. You can't kill someone. That's a law. Like that. So people, who makes the laws? People make laws. So there's a universal law of gravity. So that indicates there must be a lawmaker.
And they don't make any law to kill the animal.
What's that?
They don't make any law to kill the animal. They don't make any law to kill any animal. They just kill any animal.
Some societies do.
Do they?
Yeah, like in India now. Now because of Modi, those people in control there, the government there, have made a law you're not allowed to kill cows.
Yes.
But the point is not what the laws are, but the point is if there's a law that indicates, just logically, just think about it. When you say the word law, you know that there must be a law maker, because laws don't come by chance, do they? It means it's an intelligent being that's thought up the law. And there's so many laws in nature. There's so many laws. Like even the way the seasons change every time, it's the same order: spring, summer, autumn, winter. It doesn't. It's not by just randomly going. So it indicates there's someone in control. The planets go in orbit. They have the same orbit. I mean, a human being can calculate exactly when the next eclipse is going to be. When the full moon is going to be. When the longest day of the year is going to be. How are they able to do that? Because every year it's the same. It's not changing all the time, and one time the sun goes west, another time it goes north, another time it goes south, and then it changes its course and goes backwards, and or whatever, or the seasons. One year it's spring, summer, another year it's summer, spring. No, everything is following rules. Did you ever think, why does the ocean stop at a particular point of the beach? Has anyone ever walked on the beach before? I'm sure you all have.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever think, why does the massive, huge sea, why does it stop at that particular point on the beach? Why doesn't it stop 100 meters further away, or why doesn't it come up another 100 meters? Prabhupada said, because Krishna has drawn a line on the beach and told the ocean god, you don't cross over this line. That's the law. And the God, the controller of the ocean, he has to follow the law that his higher up authority, Supreme Lord, has given to him. If it was just by chance, tomorrow the sea could be in your beach house, but it doesn't, does it? Because it toes the line. Unless there's a tsunami. But if there's a tsunami, that's also the lawmaker is punishing us, giving us sinful reactions for breaking the laws. Like there was a tsunami some years ago which took out many coastal towns on the eastern coast of India. It was very devastating. What's that?
2004.
2004.
250,000 people died.
Yeah. Do you know the main kinds of people that died?
Those who live in the coast.
Fisher people that eat that catch fish,
Yes.
kill fish, and eat fish. They were all wiped out. You know, and their boats were destroyed. All the boats they used to kill the fish were all destroyed. Unfortunately, whoever wasn't killed was so stupid that all the welfare that came from all around the world to help them and everything, and insurance and that, what did they do with all that money? They invested it in buying a bigger boat that could kill more fish. So guess what might happen next? We don't even want to think.
Biggest tsunami.
A bigger one. But we're so stupid, we don't learn. Why are we suffering as a punishment for our wrongdoings? Our wrongdoings. The suffering as a reaction for sinful activities or bad karma. And the reason why we do sinful activities, bad karma, is because of ignorance. So the root cause of the problem is, the root cause of our suffering is
Ignorance.
ignorance. So if you want to stop suffering, what do you have to do?
Wake up.
You need knowledge. You've got to get free from ignorance. Our worst enemy is ignorance. Because of ignorance, we act in sense gratification for our own pleasure. We don't care about God. We just care about our own body. You know, out of sense gratification, we hurt other living entities. We have no right to do that, but we hurt other living entities for our own enjoyment. Let me enjoy, and, you know, a million fish can suffer. So I can buy my boat. So I can buy my penthouse suite and have sex with my girlfriend, and you know, I'll make that money from killing millions of fish or cows or whatever else, sheep, or we don't care, you know. So it's all for our sense gratification. So actually, the cause of sinful activities is this madness. This madness of wanting to please our own senses that makes us mad. We're prepared to do any damn thing, prepared to do any sinful thing. Why we act in such crazy ways, just killing and raping and pillaging and lying and cheating, and why do we become so mad? What creates? What's that?
It's lust.
Yeah, it's this. This strong desire or lust, like Gulshan's saying, this lust to please our own senses, that the result of that, it makes us crazy. It makes us insane. We become mad. And a mad person does all kind of crazy things. So like that, all these crazy things.
If it doesn't feel his lust, he gets angry.
Yeah, and then of course when our strong desires for enjoyment don't work out, then we get angry, and then we do even more sinful things when we get angry. Then we, you know, beat someone up, kill someone, you know, do all kind of things, you know, yell and swear and so many things. So it just gets worse and worse. So the root cause is this ignorance of thinking with the body, and the goal of our life is to enjoy the body. So we've got to deal with that. So the first thing the spiritual master tells us is that you're not the body, you're a soul, and the goal of your life is to, as it said here, to advance toward the supreme, eternal atmosphere, as Prabhupada said, to go back home, back to Godhead. That's the goal, not sense gratification. This is a wrong goal. That's only going to bring us some temporary happiness and a long time suffering. You're going to enjoy for a few seconds when you're eating your burger, and then you're going to suffer life after life when you're slaughtered in the same body as what you ate. You know, so it's a tiny fractions of happiness for a lot of suffering. So that, as you can understand, is not a very good scenario. So as we become enlightened or awakened to spiritual knowledge, then we have to avoid these things. And so when you do the sacrifice, then there's no reaction. We talked about that before, right? Akarma. Mm-hmm. When you act and sacrifice, when your action is a sacrifice, mean you're doing it for the pleasure of the Supreme, not for your pleasure, not for your sense gratification, but for the sense gratification of the Supreme, there's no reaction. Which, remember what we called that? It's called akarma. Akarma. Remember, there's three kinds of activities. There's karma, vikarma, and akarma. What's karma?
Action.
What kind of action? It's called fruit of action.
Fruit of action.
You want to enjoy the result, which it means you're doing to enjoy the result. That means you're going to get the reaction. The reaction is coming to you because you did it for your pleasure. You didn't do it for the Supreme's pleasure. For God's pleasure, you did it for your pleasure. So that means because you're doing it for your pleasure, whatever the result, whether it's good or bad, comes to you. It's for your purpose. You did it, the activity for your purpose, your pleasure. Whatever the outcome, that will come to you. And then there's vikarma. Vikarma means that's a sinful action. It should not be done, but you did it. So definitely you'll get a bad reaction. Normally, karma indicates that you're doing it for your pleasure, but you're following the scriptures. You're following it. So it's normally karma would indicate pious activity. You're following the scriptures, and the reaction will be coming to you, but it will be a good reaction in the sense that you might go to the heavenly planets in your next life. By doing karma, following the rules of the scriptures, but still the reason why you're following the scriptures is to get more pleasure for your senses. Oh, if I do this sacrifice, then I can take birth in heaven, and I'll be surrounded by beautiful women and drink this heavenly beverages, and live for 10,000 years. So with that goal in mind, you're doing that good karma. That's karma. And then vikarma means you don't follow the scriptures, you don't believe in the scriptures, you don't follow scriptures, you don't care for God's rules, and you do whatever you like, and that's sinful activities, and you get sinful reactions, which leads to suffering. And then there's akarma. Akarma means you do the activity for the pleasure of the Supreme. So whatever the reactions come, whether they're good or bad, you don't get the result. You don't get the result. It's just like you didn't do anything. You're acting, but you don't get any results, so it's like you didn't do anything. That's called akarma. Karma means action, and put an A in front of it means non-reactive, like no action. But you did the action, but you didn't get a reaction, so it's just like you didn't do anything. Does that make sense? Some of you, we've talked about these things before.
It's hard.
Yeah, it takes time. We have to keep hearing again and again and again, and slowly it'll sink in. Slowly it'll sink in. But the idea is here, you do all these different performers of different kind of sacrifices. If they have that purpose to please the Supreme, then the sinful reactions will be cleared off. There'll be no sinful reactions. And then it's saying, interestingly, having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifice. So the results of sacrifice is nectar. What is that nectar? What do you think? What does that mean when you tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifice?
I would think it's taking you closer to Krishna.
It's taking closer to Krishna. And what happens when you come closer to Krishna? Will you be always depressed and morose and have hyper anxiety and hypertension and all these kind of things?
The opposite. I think you'd be extremely happy.
You'll be extremely happy. You'll be extremely happy. Extremely happy. So that's a result of performing sacrifice. Did someone say something?
I said permanent happiness, or
yeah, slowly, not necessarily immediately, and on a permanent level.
Eternal bliss. I don't know.
Yeah,
eternal bliss.
Getting closer to that means you'll be more happy than sad. In the beginning, you're more sad than happy, and you'll be getting more and more happy slowly. Until at a certain point, when you become fully spiritually connected, then you'll be always happy. Brahma Bhuta stage, that's a spiritual platform.
And it waives that sinful reaction that we done in the past.
What's that?
Is that waive that sinful reaction we done in the past?
Sinful reaction we've done in the past, you can't change that. When we were in ignorance before, say now we've come out of ignorance. Okay, I've got Guru now and I'm following his instructions. I'm not doing any sinful things anymore. So what about all the stuff that happened in the past? Am I still going to get the reaction for that?
Yeah.
Excuse me, sorry, mate.
Yeah.
Sorry to butt in.
Yeah.
Mate, I have to go. Just before we started, my daughter needed me to go and pick her up. So I have to sign off.
Yes.
And I just say hooray to Giardi and also all the people from the Bhakti Tree. I'll see them at lunch tomorrow.
How many people? Should I book the table for you?
Oh, you better. There'll be 4 of us.
4?
12:30.
See you then, Bobby.
All right, bye-bye.
See you,
Hare
Bob.
Krishna, Hari Bol.
Take care. All the best.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so then the question is, what about all the past sinful actions before we came on the right path?
Yeah.
That once you connect with the Supreme and please the Supreme, then he, out of his, as we've talked about before, he's so merciful. He doesn't have to, but out of his love and compassion for our souls, his children, he cleans your slate off.
Whoa.
He cleans the blackboard of all your crosses. All the cross beside your name, there's 1,000 crosses for all those living entities you killed and cheated and people you lied to and ripped off and everything. So whatever, that's all cleared off, all those crosses. And there's a big tick here. Start getting ticks. But after you surrender to the Lord, and you say you surrender to Him. Okay, from now on, I'm not working for my pleasure anymore. I'm working for your pleasure. It means you're acting in sacrifice. After that point, if you go back and do some sinful things again, then that will be a new debit in your account. Your account is cleaned of all debts.
And then it'll be past like it will add on.
Things, then that will be taken into account again. But all the past stuff was gone from when you connected with the Supreme and surrendered. But you've still got free choice. So if you go back to sense gratification, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, after you've surrendered, then you've started up your material account again. But at the point you surrender, your material account's cleared off. Means all the bad things plus all the good things. Means all the things that you did, which would have sent you to heaven, to Swargaloka, to heaven, that's also cleaned off. Means you won't get the reaction of going to heaven anymore. Which for a devotee, that's not good. Because remember, what's your goal? We want to advance toward the supreme eternal atmosphere. Because heaven is also temporary. 10,000 years is temporary. That's also a deviation to go to heaven. But when you surrender and do a sacrifice for the Supreme, you're not going to go to hell and you're not going to go to heaven. You're going to go to the Supreme. But again, if you start to indulge in sense gratification and karma or vikarma, then your wheels have hit the ground again. As soon as you live a life of sacrifice, it's like your plane takes off the runway, but you're in the air. But if you come back to karma or vikarma, you're back on the ground again. And that's our choice. We're the pilot, right? The pilot has that choice. You can go up or down.
If I run out the fuel, where would I go? I'll go if I run out the fuel.
Yeah, that's why Krishna very kindly, we offer the food to him and he gives it back to us in the form of prasadam. So Prabhupada said that this spiritual food, prasadam, that's the diet for the conditioned soul. That's our diet. That's our fuel. And also, what's the medicine? Like if you're a sick person, if you're a patient, you go to hospital, you've got a diet and you've got medicine, right? So this is the analogy. You're sick, what do you need? Two things. You need a diet and you need medicine. So I've already given away what our diet is. That's food offered in sacrifice, prasadam. What's the medicine?
And the chanting.
Yes, very good. Another cardamom cookie.
But the thing is, like when I was at the hospital, nobody bring the gulab jamun for me. Everybody bring the fruit.
Yeah, because you got to get food that's going to cure your disease, not make the disease worse.
I like gulab jamun, and they bring the fruit.
Okay. So, doing the sacrifices, as we've mentioned also, what sacrifice also infers that you have to give something up, which is difficult, right? You have to give up your time, maybe you have to give up some money, like, one sacrifice, giving away your possessions. So that's your wealth, giving away, that's difficult, Or austerities was one kind of sacrifice. So that means some physical difficulty you're going through. So that's difficult. Doing yoga, so many exercises, breathing, that's difficult. And chanting is not really difficult, but still, it is difficult in one sense, because what's the difficulty of chanting? You tell me, because you're chanting. So what difficulties have you experienced in chanting?
The mind goes everywhere.
Yeah, the mind goes everywhere. Rascal, isn't it? So, and then you have to keep bringing it back, and it goes off again, and you have to bring it back again. And then the mind says all kind of crazy stuff. Oh, I'm bored. Oh, I'm sick of this chanting. I don't want to chant. I want to watch TV. I want to go to bed. I want to go and eat.
I've got a very different philosophy. I've got a very different philosophy. Like when I do chanting, if mind goes anywhere, I ask only two questions: what I'm doing right now, what should I be doing right now? Then mind come back.
Okay, good technique there. Whatever works. Anyway, whatever sacrifice you're doing, there's going to be some difficulties. It's going to be some, you could say poison, you could say difficulties. But if you can push through that poison, that difficulty in the beginning, for the conditioned soul to give up trying to please myself, because you see, not just this one life, but many lives I've been trying to please myself. Now I'm trying to do a 180-degree turnaround. 180-degree turnaround. Now I'm going to stop pleasing myself and try to please the Supreme. That's a 180-degree turnaround for the conditioned soul. That can be difficult because we've been doing that life after life. So that you could say there's a bit of poison there in the sense that it's hard, it's difficult. But if we can push through that poison, we'll eventually reach the
nectar.
The nectar.
nectar. So it helps you to push through the poison if you remember and if you realize that if you keep on going, eventually you're going to reach the nectar. One time, little short story, the demons and demigods, they don't normally work together cooperatively, but one time they worked together cooperatively because they had a common purpose. Their common purpose was to get a pot of nectar. How could they get the pot of nectar? They couldn't do it by themselves. They all had to work together. They had to churn an ocean. Now, that's obviously, you can't do it by yourself, churn an ocean. You can churn a little pot of yogurt by yourself, but you can't churn an ocean. So all that, 333 million demigods, and I don't know how many demons there are in the universe, but there's a hell of a lot. So they all got together and they made a big churning rod out of a mountain called Mandara, which was made of gold. And if you need a churning rod to churn some liquid, right? You have the rod, but then you need a rope to make the rod turn around. So what was the rope? That was the Lord of the Snakes called Vasuki. The Lord of the Snakes called Vasuki. And then they churned it. And then if you put something heavy in the water, what's going to happen?
To drown.
It's going to sink.
Yeah.
So then the rod sunk. So then the Lord came in a special form to help them. He came in the form of a gigantic transcendental turtle called Kurma. We have one disciple of Prabhupada. His name is Kurma Dasa. He wrote
a book.
Yeah, he wrote many books.
He's
named after that turtle incarnation that appeared to support the churning rod that the demons and demigods were using to get the nectar. And then finally they got the nectar, but they had to go through so many hardships. When the rod sunk the first time, it fell on a lot of the demons and demigods, so they died. That's difficult. Because you can imagine so heavy, they had to lift the mountain because the mountain wasn't always in the ocean. The mountain was on the land. So they had to carry the mountain from the land to the ocean. So many of them died. And what happened, the Lord, Narayan, came on the back of Garuda and glanced over all the dead bodies of the demons and demigods and brought them back to life. Then they put it in the water and then it sunk, and then he came in the form of a turtle. And then the first thing that came out of the ocean when they churned it wasn't the nectar. The first thing that came out was poison. Then they were suffering from the fumes of the poison. Then Lord Shiva came to help them because they couldn't sort it out. The problem was too great. So Shiva came, and out of his mercy and love, and he's so powerful, he drank the poison and he kept it in his throat. And that's why he's called Nila Kanta. Nila means blue and Kanta means throat, because he kept that blue poison in his throat. He kept it there. It didn't kill him because he's a powerful Ishvara controller. So that poison, it would have killed anyone else. But because he's almost on the platform of God, it didn't hurt him in any way. And some things came out of the ocean, and finally they got what they wanted. The nectar. They got the nectar. So that's what we should understand, that we're going through all these difficulties now. Oh, no meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, have to get up early in the morning, have to chant Hare Krishna, so many things like that. It's like poison. But always keep in your mind that if we push through this, we'll reach the nectar. We're going to be happy forever. We're going to go into a place where we can live eternally. No more birth, no more old age, no more disease, and no more death.
No more suffering.
Would you like to do that? Would you like to get free from birth, old age, disease, and death?
Love to.
But those are all very miserable things, and that's just some of it. It's the main one. There's a lot of other minor ones, tsunamis and earthquakes and famines and droughts and everything. There's a lot there, but those are just the 4 main ones. So if you want to get free from all that, wouldn't that be worth it? And you can live an eternal life, blissful life, full consciousness, no misery, no ignorance. You have spiritual senses, and you're relishing every moment. I've mentioned before many times how sometimes Prabhupada, he'd be chanting and tears would be coming out of his eyes, sideways. How happy. I always think, how happy must Prabhupada have been for the tears to come out sideways? You can't imagine, is it? It's inconceivable. He's relishing buckets and buckets of nectar in order for that. And it's possible. Because people have seen him. I can go today and talk to people that saw the tears come out sideways. It's not mythology, it's not superstition, it's not a fairy tale. It's science. It's tangible, it's real. Even I myself, I'm nothing in comparison to Prabhupada, but I have had experiences through chanting and doing other aspects of Bhakti Yoga where I've felt so happy, and it's not anything to do with the body. It's beyond sense gratification happiness. One time I was listening very attentively to one disciple of Prabhupada sing one bhajan, one song, Jai Radha Madhava, and then he sung Hare Krishna. And on my part, all I was endeavoring to do was hear, which is the first process of Bhakti Yoga. Just try to hear. Just the mind is going everywhere, but just try to hear that spiritual sound vibration. So I concentrate on that spiritual vibration. I went somewhere, and it wasn't anywhere in this material world. It was outside of the material world. And I couldn't see anything, but I was just like in an ocean of bliss. It was just like floating in an ocean of bliss. And it was beyond the senses, sense objects. There was no senses, no sense objects, nothing. Beyond the mind, beyond the intelligence, beyond the ego. It was just an ocean of bliss. It was probably, we understand from reading, that was probably the Brahman platform. And that's not even being back to Godhead with Krishna in the spiritual world. That's a lot less than that. But even that was, wow, that was like, this is what motivates me to keep on going after 25 years. That for a few seconds, I tasted some nectar. I tasted some nectar for it. And when I came out of that state, when I came back to the body, then tears were all coming down my face. And I was just feeling so elated, so joyful. Like that. But even a few moments of nectar can help us. And I have a lot of hard times, and like now we're struggling, through this COVID virus time, and all my plans are a bit frustrated and all that. But I don't really care anymore, because I know that my goal is to get out of this world. I don't really care what happens in this world to the body, or whether I achieve all material objectives and everything like that. We just keep that fixed in our mind to reach that nectar of Krishna's association of eternal spiritual life. And that pushes the practitioner on. That will push us on. So we should always have that goal in mind, that we want to reach the nectar. We want to get that eternal spiritual life. We want to get free from suffering. So you should always, that's called prayojana. Prayojana, goal. Always very important to keep the goal in mind. Don't just do activities mindlessly without understanding what is your purpose. You should always have a sense of purpose, a goal in mind. You should always think, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this activity? And if you analyze it and it's a really stupid reason, then don't do it. If there's no good result from doing it, if you analyze it and think, well, the result of doing this is not very good, then just give it up, and just focus on doing activities that are going to bring you to the nectar, that are going to bring you closer to the nectar, closer to eternal life. Oh, if I go down to KFC, that'll be really yummy. I really enjoy that. But, what's going to be the result of that? Oh, that's going to create sinful reactions. That's going to mean I have to come back to the material again. That means I'm not going to get to go back to Godhead. Do I really want to do that? Nah, I'm not going to do that. So you have to see, is your activities bringing you closer to your goal of that eternal spiritual atmosphere or further away? So always, in everything you do, analyze it in terms of, is it helping you to achieve your goal, or is it getting you further away from your goal? But the first thing you need to do is work out what's your goal. If you could have your goal too, I want to enjoy the body. I want sense gratification. That's my goal. Okay. That's your choice. You don't have to make this your goal to advance towards the supreme eternal atmosphere. You're not forced. You can have any goal you want. You can have, my goal is just sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That's all my goal is. And there's only one life, and that's the way you think. Or my goal is to go to heaven in the next life. Okay, that's what you want. Or my goal is to merge into the Brahman, merge in the spiritual light. Okay, you can hit that. Or my goal is to have a personal relationship, to live with Krishna after this life. And according to the Vedas, that's the highest goal. But there's all different gradations like that. You have to decide what you want, and then you're going to act to help you achieve whatever your goal is. You don't want to say anything about that? Does that make sense?
Is that the goal can change? Means like at the moment, my goal is to be first to
of course. Yeah, of course. I mean, speaking for myself, my goal before was only sense gratification, just to please myself. Now I'm still struggling with that, but we're trying to change that goal. We're trying to change that goal. So that's something that's definitely evolves. And you could also go the other way too. Like I said, you could have the goal to go back to Godhead, and then tomorrow you could wake up and think, nah, I just want to enjoy my senses. So you changed your goal. But the more knowledge you get, then you will choose the best goal. You won't want to settle for a stupid goal. It's only because of ignorance that we settle for these really temporary goals. Does that make sense?
Krishna help us to fulfill that goal?
Materialists, they make goals too. Successful materialists, even the materialists, they've said that. If you want to be successful in your life, become rich or a big position or whatever, you have to make goals. They actually did an experiment. You got a whole bunch of, say, 30 students, right? Or whatever the number of students is. And they went back to all those students, say 10 years later, to see where they had achieved in life. So they had students that had no goals. They had students that had goals, but they hadn't written them down. And they had students that had goals and they'd written them down. And they went back to those people 10 years later. The students that had no goals, they were just drifting around, non-achievers materially. And then those that had goals but hadn't written down, they had made progress. You know, they had, you know, they were making some money, they had good jobs, good position, everything like that. Okay. And the ones that had goals and they were written goals, they were like top. 10 years later, they were like, you know, CEOs, and, you know, they were doing really well in life and everything like that. So, I mean, materially, you can even see that it's important to have a goal and not just, you know, some airy-fairy thing, but you make it really solid, really tangible. Like if you write it down, it's not going to move, is it? If it's just in your head, it can be in your head one day out the other. But make it, like they're saying, is write it in stone. Sometimes you'll see, even on temples and that, a stone temple 1,000 years old, they've written something in the wall. They've written something in the wall, and it's still there after 1,000 years because they wrote it into the stone. So writing it down can help to keep that thing there. Keep it in your mind. Because every day you're going to wake up and look at your wall, right? And say, oh, yeah, I am a servant of Krishna. Maybe that's what you write. You know, I want to be a servant of Krishna. I want to live with Krishna. So you see it every day. I want to live with Krishna. 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 Actually, one person, before he met the devotees, he had a really fancy sign he had made in wood and carved wood and everything, and put that up on his wall. Do you know what it said? I am God.
Mm-hmm.
That was his goal. And he had it written down. Luckily, after that, he met Prabhupada, and he realized that's not a very good goal, so he pulled the sign down. And then he changed it to, I want to be a servant of God. He realized that's more nectar. There's more nectar in being a servant of God than trying to become. There's more nectar in that. Prabhupada explained to him with so much knowledge how it was more nectar to serve God than trying to become God. That's actually the cause, the original cause of our suffering, is that we wanted to foolishly try to imitate God. So we have to, if we want the real nectar, we have to throw that goal out and accept the correct goal. Okay, so let's make advancements and read the purport while we have time. Let's read it. Okay. Narendra.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want me to read it, the paper?
Purport, yeah. 4:30.
From the foregoing explanation of different types of sacrifice, namely sacrifice of one's possession, study of Vedas or philosophical doctrines, and performance of yoga system, it is found that common aim of all is to control the senses. Sense gratification is the root cause of material existence. Therefore, unless and until one is situated on a platform apart from sense gratification, there is no chance of being elevated to the eternal platform of full knowledge, full bliss, and full life. This platform is in eternal atmosphere or Brahman atmosphere. All the above mentioned sacrifices help one to become cleansed of sinful reactions of material existence. By this advancements in life, not only does one become happy and opulent in this life, but also at the end he enters into eternal kingdom of God, either by merging into the impersonal Brahman or associating with Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna.
Okay, thank you. So we've just been reading so many translations about different kinds of sacrifices. Now, one point is you have to follow an authorized process. You can't make up your own process of sacrifice. you've got to follow some authorized process from the scriptures. And so that's, I think, common. It's been authorized process. And all these different kinds of sacrifices. Another thing that's in common is that you have to control the senses. Whether it's you're doing yoga or you're doing bhakti, or whether you're giving away your possessions or doing austerities. Yes? What's that?
Drinking tea.
Yep.
Yeah, I give up.
None of them allow tea. No tea drinking.
No,
Doesn't matter what sacrifice you do, no tea drinking.
Sacrifice. You can give up teas, you know.
Of course, there's more important and less important rules. That's a lesser one. I mean, in the beginning, like I said in the beginning, when we're coming from the point where we're very attached to sense gratification, those kind of attachments might still remain, but at least the main ones we should try to get free. Like I know even Prabhupada said to some classes of people, some different particular kinds of people, he said he could tell, they could not, at the stage they were at, they could not give up meat eating. They could not give up meat eating. But he said, at least don't kill cows. If you have to eat meat, you kill some lesser animals. Kill goats or sheep. So you've really got to see where the people are at. Maybe they're not ready to give up tea, okay, but at least they can not take, ice and crack and cocaine and and wine and stuff like that. So they might not be able to give all kinds of intoxication straight away, but at least work on the bigger ones, and then slowly, they can advance. Slowly they can advance like that. But what makes it all the easier is if you replace the sense gratification that you're attached to with a more better sense gratification, which is spiritual sense gratification. Like for us, right? How have we been able to give up all this unoffered food? McDonald's and KFC and Burger King and fish and chips and all this kind of stuff. Because
by filling up our bellies with prasadam.
Yes, Brett's hit it on the button. By filling up our bellies with prasadam. So we've got the higher taste, as we have the cookbook, the higher taste. So when you've got the higher taste, you can give up the lower taste. So that makes it easier. And if you fully satisfy the senses with the results of sacrifice, like this food offered to the Lord, or with chanting Hare Krishna, because the tongue does two things, right? The tongue eats and also it vibrates, blah, 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 blah. So it makes sounds. So if you, instead of vibrating all nonsense stuff, like how's the weather, who won the rugby, what's the stock market like, mundane vibration, if you replace that Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, like that, or what we're reading Krishna's words of the Bhagavad Gita, then you can override all that material vibration. And if you fill up the mouth with food offered to Krishna, you won't be filling it up with other nonsense foods. So that way, automatically, all the negative things that bring sinful reactions are automatically going to go away. Like when I joined the Hare Krishna movement, nobody told me don't eat meat. No one told me you can't go to McDonald's, don't go to KFC, anything like that.
How did you stop eating meat?
They stuffed my face with prasadam, with sweet rice and samosas and curd sabji and everything offered to Krishna. And then automatically, I myself decided, why do I want to eat the junk? I lost the taste for it.
And the association of the devotees makes it a big difference too.
Yeah, well, I mean, where are you going to get prasadam from? You're only going to get it from a devotee. You're not going to get it from
their association. Sit down with them, having a prasadam. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just automatically understood that devotees have to be there. Like, where did you find out to chant Hare Krishna from? From a devotee. Where did you get the Bhagavad Gita from? A devotee. Where did you get prasadam from? A devotee. Where are you going to get to in your life without a devotee? Nowhere. You know, so you know that's everywhere in the process. Hearing, chanting, you know, when all the processes of Bhakti Yoga, devotee association is so essential. And you know, when you're reading Bhagavad Gita, you're actually associating with Prabhupada. You're associating with Krishna, and you're associating with Arjuna, and you're associating with all the acharyas, all the previous spiritual teachers. So you're actually associating with devotees. But in the beginning, of course, we need a devotee to introduce us to the Bhagavad Gita. Help us to understand things like that. But you actually have very wonderful association. So that's one thing in common. It doesn't matter what kind of sacrifice you're following, as long as it's authorized one, and then the aim will be the same aim to control the senses, and also you want to have the same goal to advance towards the eternal spiritual atmosphere. So there's a lot of common denominators. So like I'm saying, don't get too caught up on someone's pressing his nose and doing exercises, and someone's giving away his possessions, and someone's doing austerities. But keep in mind more the common things, that they're trying to control their senses, and that they're trying to advance towards the eternal spiritual atmosphere. Of course, having said that, a lot of modern day persons following Hatha Yoga, Stanga Yoga, Pranayama now, they're not thinking about advancing towards the eternal spiritual atmosphere. They don't have that goal. Why don't they have that goal? No one ever told them. Or even if someone did tell them, they're too attached to the body. Like normally persons that follow that kind of sacrifice of yoga, what kind of person are they? That sacrifice mainly, what are you using in that sacrifice?
Sense gratification.
You're using your body. That kind of sacrifice, mainly you're working with your body, right? You're doing the exercises with your body, the nose and the breathing is for the breathing of the body. It's all about the body. So why is someone attracted to doing that sacrifice? Because they're very attached to the body. They're very attached. That's why they're doing that. Why are they doing that sacrifice and not this sacrifice of chanting Hare Krishna? Because they're more attached to the body. They want to work more with their bodies. Whereas, like, for example, someone that's studying the Vedas, because that was mentioned as one kind of sacrifice, studying the Vedas, what are they working with? What attachment would they be having?
Knowledge.
Transcendental knowledge.
Well, yeah, they're hoping to get transcendental knowledge, but they're working mainly with their mind, intelligence. See, like the yoga person, he's working on the bodily platform with the body, and the person studying the Vedas, he's working more with his intelligence, like that. And bhakti, that's full surrender. Body, mind, intelligence, soul, everything surrendered. And not everyone's prepared to do that. You know, so that's why I've mentioned why there are so many different kind of sacrifices. It's not because there's different objectives, but it's because the practitioners are on different levels. It's because of us. Like some people ask, why is there so many religions? If there's only one God, why is there so many religions? Why we should just make one religion? We agree, yeah, it should just be one religion, and the one religion is to love God. But the actual fact is there's many religions because the people are on all different stages. Some are attached to eating meat, so they might go and follow a religion that's okay to eat meat. You know, so there's all different kinds of religions to suit all the different mentalities. People that have different attachments, different mentalities, different conditioning. Because we have to remember, we're conditioned mainly by how many modes?
Three.
3 modes. So, just like there's 3 primary colors, right? What are the 3 primary colors?
Red, yellow, and green.
RGB. I think it's red,
Blue.
blue, and
Blue.
green.
Is it?
RGB.
I'm thinking of a traffic light.
It's RGB, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
red, blue.
But is there only 3 colors?
No, there's more than that.
These are the primary colors, right?
Yes. So what happens is you mix the red and the blue, and you get another color.
Mm,
Mix the blue and the yellow, you get another color. So 3 modes of material nature. Imagine it just like the analogy, 3 colors. What happens if you mix ignorance and passion? You get another kind of living entity with a different mentality. What happens if you mix passion and ignorance? You get another mentality. What happens if you mix goodness and ignorance? You get another kind of living entity. Prabhupada used that to explain how did we get 8,400,000 species of life? Because you've got the soul who is mixed up with those 3 modes in different ways. Like, and Prabhupada said, 3 times 3 equals
9.
9 times 9 equals
81.
81. Then you keep going like that, keep going, you end up with 8,400,000. Like that. Different combinations of the 3 modes. What happens? Mix ignorance with passion, that's one. Mix ignorance with goodness. Mix ignorance with more ignorance. Mix passion with passion, passion with goodness, passion with ignorance. You see, it's just like you mix yellow with red and put more red and less yellow, or more yellow and less red, more blue and less, and then you end up with green, and that green, then you mix that with the red. You see? And that mauve, you created mauve, and that mauve mixed with the blue. And that mauve, you mix that with the yellow. You see how you can create so many, like the artist can create so many different colors. You go to a paint shop, look at their paint. Have you been to a paint shop? Look at that piece of paper.
Yeah.
It's actually pages and pages of colors you can create. How many shades of brown? How many shades of gray? How many shades of blue? It's like that. That's why there's so many different species, because we're all tasting different flavors of modes, different flavors of sense gratification. Far out, huh? It's us that has made it so complicated. So we've run out of time, but I just want to quickly look at, because we talked a little bit about nectar, so we want to talk a little bit more about that. Well, one thing is, just for you can look at this in your own time, but in the 17th chapter, text 23. So there's 18 chapters, so the 17th chapter, text 23, it's explaining that what the ultimate purpose of sacrifice is. It's for the satisfaction of the Supreme. So, and Prabhupada discusses how if that's not your purpose, you're doing a sacrifice, but you have some other purpose other than to satisfy the Supreme, then that's not going to bring you the ultimate result. You're going to miss out on getting the ultimate result. You're going to miss out on the real nectar. You might get some nectar, but you're not going to get the full nectar. So you should always have that, whatever sacrifice you're doing, but you should always have that as your objective. And how would they indicate that was the objective? By saying 3 words. Om, Tat, Sat. Before they started a sacrifice, before they started whatever it is, the sacrifice they're doing, they would start it off by telling what's their goal. Om, Tat, Sat. That means they're doing it for the sake of, the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Because Om is the Supreme Lord, and Sat means eternal. So for that, so they're doing it for that eternal Supreme Lord. That's why they're doing it. So that's very important to try to find out what is the best goal before you act. Don't just blindly act, but set the goal, find out what is the human life. It gives you an opportunity where you can find out the best goal. And no other species can find out that goal. Every other species, it's just the goal of sense gratification. But only in the human form of life you can find another goal other than the sense gratification. Only human beings can find that goal. And we're very fortunate. The mercy of Krishna and the spiritual master has enlightened us to teach us where the real nectar is, what's the best goal and how to achieve it, that eternal life of bliss and knowledge. So we should dedicate all of our activities, which is sacrifices, for the pleasure of that Supreme Personality of Godhead on Tat Sat. And then if we look further, in the 18th chapter, so you can read a few verses in your own time, 17th chapter, text 23, and then that section goes on to the end of the chapter, end of the 17th chapter. And then in the 18th chapter, you can look at text 36 and, 36, 37, 38, 39. So it talks about different kinds of happiness and different modes, different happiness and different modes of nature and goodness, passion, ignorance. So at 37 says, that which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. That's what we're talking about here. That by following the sacrifice, we want to get the nectar. It's not wrong to want nectar. You might say, is that selfish? Am I being selfish to want nectar? No, that's your right. That's your inheritance. You're an eternal soul. Your nature is to be always happy. That's your right. That's who you really are, is to always be happy. That you deserve that. Somehow or other you have lost that. And you are missing that, and you are hankering for that. But what the real problem is, we're looking for the nectar in the material world. You're looking in the wrong place for the nectar. The real nectar is in the spiritual world with Krishna. Prabhupada gives the example. It's like looking for water in the desert. Is that a good idea?
No.
Dumbo. There's no water in the desert. What do you call it when you see water in the desert? What do you call that illusion?
Oasis.
No, I mean, no, there might be some oasis, but normally if some really thirsty person in a desert sees water, what is it?
It's a mirage.
It's a mirage.
It's an
Another
illusion.
cardamom cookie for bread or make
It's
them
an
a good luck.
illusion.
It's an illusion. It's a mirage. It's not real. But does that mean water isn't real? Water is real, but what's not real is you're looking in the desert. You're looking in the wrong place. You go to outside the desert to get the real water. So water exists, but not in the desert. In the same way, nectar is there, happiness is there. But looking for it in the material world, you're looking in the wrong place. Real nectar is in the spiritual life. It's in a loving relationship with Krishna. In our eternal spiritual body, there's no birth, no old age, no disease like that. So this is what in the mode of goodness. In the beginning, it's like poison. Why is it poison in the beginning in the mode of goodness? Because you're attached to the body. You're attached to sense gratification. It's hard to give it up because you're so attached. You know? So that's why it's like poison in the beginning. It doesn't mean that these things and sacrifice are bad or anything. It's like chanting. That's our sacrifice. Is it poisonous, chanting? No, poisonous is, chanting is nectar. But the problem is we are so diseased. We're so diseased that something that's real nectar, for us, it tastes like poison. And the example Prabhupada gives is when you've got a disease called jaundice. You all heard of jaundice? Heard of jaundice?
Yeah.
When you've got jaundice, sugar tastes like bitter. It's bitter. Sugar is bitter. But the cure for jaundice, what's the cure for jaundice?
Sugar cane juice.
Sugar is the only cure for jaundice. But when you've got jaundice, sugar tastes bitter. Is sugar actually bitter? No, but the problem is you're diseased. Is chanting Hare Krishna actually poison? No, but to you it tastes like poison because you're diseased. You're in ignorance. You're in Maya. You're envious of Krishna. You hate Krishna. You want to be Krishna. The chanting Hare Krishna for such a person is like poisonous. But it's our only it's our saving grace, our only hope if we chant Hare Krishna. Whether it tastes like poison or tastes like nectar, depending on what mode you're in, it's going to taste differently. But whether you're in the mode of goodness, then it's going to taste like nectar. If you're in the mode of passion, not so good, it's worse. But whatever mode we're in, you have to chant. If you want to get healthy, if you want to be a healthy soul in the game, you have to chant. Whether it tastes like poison or it tastes like nectar, whatever it tastes like, you have to chant. It's our only hope. Our only hope.
Get it out of this material world.
You know, sometimes for people to attend a class on the Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam is like poison. They don't want to hear. I mean, who wants to hear you have to give up sense gratification? Who wants to hear you know, you're not the body? You know, that you can't be happy in the material world. Who wants to hear that? It's like poison for us. What do you mean you're telling me there's no happiness in the material world? What do you mean that life is suffering? You know what? We don't want to hear that. We get angry. Some people they get upset when the devotee is preaching like that. There's no real happiness in the material world, and material life is suffering and birth and death. And why are you talking so negative? Don't talk like that. Tell something nice, isn't it? I mean, I've heard that many times. You know, sometimes it can be poison to hear talks about Krishna. You know, sometimes chanting can, you know, we don't enjoy that. It's because we're diseased. We're diseased by Maya, by illusion. But this is our cure. So if we understand this, our goal to get eternal blissful life, we go to Krishna. This is going to be difficult, but we're going to push through that. It's only temporarily. It's only for a short time. It's going to be poisonous, and then it's going to become nectar. We'll get back the nectar that we're always yearning for in our hearts, and that's natural. Like I said, it's so natural to be always happy and experiencing that nectar. So that's good that we want that. It's not selfish. That's our real life. But we have to find the nectar in spiritual life, not try to get it from material. And then it says it talks about happiness in the mode of passion. And then it talks happiness in the mode of ignorance. Like that. So you can have a look at that more in your own time if you want. And sorry I didn't give you much chance to speak. Would anyone like to say anything?
What?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me come
It's
and
best.
join.
I wanted to ask something.
He's manifested.
Abhay, I wanted to look at 3.35 next time, if sometime.
Yeah.
Wanted to understand more about that Karam Yoga chapter number 35.
Yeah.
So maybe not this time, maybe next time I'll remind you. Maybe.
Oh, yes.
I wanted to understand that.
Yes. So that's a good question. There is a bit of possible confusion with that one. So yeah, can you remind me the beginning of next time you come?
Yes, I will.
And we'll start off with this. We'll start off with this one. That's a good one. Yep. Start off with that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Anyone's got some nectar they'd like to share or some poison?
Now, why do we have a bliss ball in the Bhakti tree?
Why then? That's poisonous. There's no bliss balls.
In the Bhakti tree, we have a dessert bliss ball.
Where's the nectar? There's no nectar. You've got to bring the nectar.
So we have to
You're just attached to one kind of nectar, but there's other kind of nectars. There's bhakti malas and Brett's date slices and apricot slices.
Oh no, she's making the vegan brownie these days.
Oh, there's vegan brownies, so that's just a different kind of nectar. So you just got to be happy with whatever nectar is there. That's actually part of the spiritual process, is being satisfied with whatever comes easily. Whatever comes of its own accord, without you endeavoring hard for it, whatever comes easily of its own accord, accepting that. That's an important principle in spiritual life and spiritual advancement, is being satisfied by what comes easily. It's called yadrichaya. Yadrichaya. It's a very wonderful word. That which comes of its own accord easily. So one time you come and there's date slice. One time you come and there's one time it's Sorry. Another time it's blissful. Another time gulab jamun. Another time halava. Another time there's no sweet. There's rice and dal only. But be satisfied with the rice and dal. Another one time is pakora. Another time is only popcorn.
No. When we charge $13, we have to give a full buffet.
That's another thing. That's economics.
You give a $13, just give a dal and rice. You're not gonna come back again.
Yeah. That's another session. That's another session.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Lovely to see
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful
You
week.
too. Thank you. You too.
Yeah, Hare Krishna,
Go
do
after
close.
nectar. Make a very good goal. Remember, write it down. That's why I have my diary here.
Yeah.
Write down everything. What's your goals and everything, and then make steps towards it.
Can we share our goals or not?
Make steps towards it. Push through whatever difficulties are there to reach your goal.
Okay.
Sorry, Gulshan, you said something?
Can we share our goals?
Of course. Prabhupada shared his goal. Prabhupada one time he said, my goal, my whole life, was everything for Krishna and nothing for me. That's heavy goal, isn't it? Everything for Krishna, nothing for me. For many of us, I mean, from my own self, that can be like toxic to hear that, isn't it? Oh no, nothing for me. What do you mean nothing for me? Everything for Krishna. Why I have to give everything to Krishna?
But
Like
do you do like a short-term goals and then long-term goals?
Yeah. So I want to get to that, but I know that's the best, but I can't handle it right now because I'm attached to satisfying my own senses. So this is where I want to get to, but it means by the time this corpse body drops down dead, you know, at night it drops down dead, but it gets up in the morning. But the final time when it drops down dead and it doesn't get up again, by that time, I want to be at the point where everything for Krishna, nothing for me. Now it's like 80% for me, 20% for Krishna, or whatever, 70-30, 60-40, 50-50, or swing it the other way, 90 for Krishna, 10 for me. You know, so it is a gradual process. It's not that either you do 100% for Krishna or you can't practice bhakti if you don't give 100%. It's not like that. Like I mentioned last time, that man that walked in to the temple when Prabhupada was giving a lecture with some rolls of toilet paper.
Yeah.
That was like 0.01% for Krishna and 99.9% for himself. But Prabhupada said, wonderful, wonderful. He has begun his spiritual life. Krishna will give him credit for that. Prabhupada could see he's advancing towards the nectar, 0.01%. That's fantastic. We encourage that. Prabhupada was, everyone else is thinking, what's the stupid bum doing with some stupid toilet paper, putting it in the toilet? But Prabhupada was seeing it as a very wonderful thing, that he's made a step towards the supreme eternal, that ultimate goal. Prabhupada was so happy with the person. We shouldn't put the person down. Oh, you've only done 0.01%. That's like, and for Krishna, and the rest is for you. No, always be very encouraging. It's fantastic. Krishna's very happy to see that that person's given, you know, a roll of toilet paper for himself. Every other day he's kept it for his own toilet, but this is the first time he's put it in Krishna's toilet. So that's advancement, that's progress. So bhakti is for whatever level you're on. 1% for Krishna, 99% for you, or 99% for Krishna, 1% for you. Doesn't matter what level you're on. But Prabhupada is telling us what the highest goal is and what he's operating on. 100% for Krishna and nothing for me. And of course, we know through hearing for Prabhupada, if you give 100% for Krishna, does it mean at the end of the day that you're left with nothing? No. If you give 100% for Krishna, you get 1,000%. You get 1,000,000%. You get, like Prabhupada, tears firing out of your eyes sideways. Every hair on your body stands up. Sometimes Prabhupada would go into a trance. He couldn't speak. He was just so choked up with emotion. Krishna is like dropping buckets of nectar on his head. And he's not ever thinking about his own happiness. He's only thinking about Krishna's happiness. But the thing is that when you try to make Krishna happy, what's Krishna doing? Krishna's going to try to make you happy, and he doesn't have to try. Whatever he does automatically happens. If you try to make Krishna happy, Krishna's going to think, you did something for my pleasure. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to do something for your pleasure. Here's a bucket of nectar. Have this. And then you'll never be the same again. You know, so just because, but the devotee's thinking everything for Krishna, nothing for me. But Krishna's thinking everything for my devotee and nothing for me. And that's what we call L-O-V-E. Love is two ways. The beloved is always thinking of the lover, and the lover is always thinking of the beloved. So there's that lover and beloved relationship between the servant and the master, and the Lord and the devotee. The devotee is always thinking about the Lord, never thinking about himself. And the Lord's always thinking about the devotee, never thinking about himself. And there's verses, if we live long enough, we can have talks on the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we can look at verses like that, the loving relationship between the Lord and the devotee. And there's nothing like it. There's nothing in comparison in the material world for the relationship between the devotee and the Lord. Is inconceivable nectar. In the spiritual world, every step is a dance, every word is a song, and every tree is a desire tree that fulfills all desires. We cannot imagine. That's what the spiritual world's like. And the spiritual world doesn't have any need for sunlight or moonlight, no need for electricity or fire. It's self-illuminating. It's just ecstatic. And if you're moving from one place to another, you move by dancing. What does that indicate? How happy you are. You dance from point A to point D. And you don't speak like a monotonous robot. You're like singing. Venam kanvantam aravinda dalayataksam bahavatam asitam buddha sundarangam Kandar pakoti kamani avashesha sobam Govindam Aripurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam. Please excuse my croaking frog-like voice, but if you had a good voice like Jayanti, I should have got her to sing that. It would have sounded pretty good. But they're so happy that they're just singing all the time, singing. Actually, Bhagavad Gita, Gita means song, and Bhagavad means God. It's a song, it was sung. Krishna's singing to Arjuna, and Arjuna is singing to Krishna. If you could heard them, how they spoke 5,000 years ago, you would have heard this amazing song. They're just so ecstatic, they're so happy. Isn't it when we're happy we sing, isn't it? When we're happy we dance. So what's that indicating in the spiritual world? All they do is sing and dance. It's indicating it's just nectar. So The first thing is to find out about it. We didn't even know that it existed. That's why we're stuffing around with the poison of sense gratification. But now we're starting to find out about this real goal that's full nectar. Now we're changing our goals, make a shift, and then you're going to head towards that. The first thing is we have to reset. Isn't it? On the mobile phone, on the computer, you have a reset button. You have to. It's stuffed up, your computer, right? So what do? You push reset. Our life is stuffed up by sense gratification. What do? You have to reset. You have to reset it and make your new program. Love Krishna. Please Krishna. That's your new program.
Oh.
Have a blissful week full of nectar. And if there's a bit of poison in there too, don't worry about it. You'll push through to the nectar. Push through and you'll reach the nectar. Just like the demons and the demigods, remember them? They had to push through a lot of poison, a lot of pain and suffering, but eventually they got the nectar. Always keep that in mind, and you'll be able to get through all the difficulties on the way.
Bottom line is keep going.
Yes. Keep going, don't give up.
All right. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.